This is Gemara Baba Basra Daf Ayin, and we like to dedicate today's learning as an incredible schos aliyas neshama Festerezel Basra Meir, dedicated by a close friend of the Daf, whose yard site is going to be this Thursday. The whole month of Elul will be learning as a tremendous schos aliyas neshama Festerezel Basra Meir. But today, for Rosh Chodesh Elul, as we herald in this incredible month of Kirvat HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ani L'Doidi V'Doidi Li, we'd like to add on one extra day as an incredible schos that as Terezel Basra Meir should go higher and higher in Gan Eden Shel Maila. Rolling on the bottom of Samach Tes Amid Beis, we are 3 lines into the wide lines, continuing the discussion of selling different items but retaining different parts for the seller. Says the Gemara, Amar Lei, if the seller, Amar Lei, if the seller says, Levar midikla plania, I'm selling you a field, except for a specific decal, I'm not selling to you. Says the Gemara, Chazina Wisi, idikla tavo, if it's a good decal, shiyu shiare, he certainly meant not to sell it, and he keeps it for himself, but everything else is yes sold. Idikla bisha, but if it's an inferior palm tree, who kol shekein anach, it's an inferior palm tree. Idikla bisha, kol shekein anach. Then not only is that one excluded, but even those which are better than it. If he meant to exclude a low-level palm, then certainly he meant to exclude a higher-level palm tree. So we have to see what level is the tree that he spoke out in order to know what is included and what is not included. Says the Gemara. Another case. Amar Leif, the seller says, Levar meilane. He says, I'm selling you a field, excluding the trees. So we look. If it has regular trees, then levar meilane. Then indeed the sale goes through, but except for all the trees. Isle dikla, it doesn't have regular trees, but it has palm trees. Levar midikla, that's certainly what he meant to exclude. Isle gofni, if it has vines, levar gofni. But now, what happens if the field has ilani vigofni? It has both. It has trees and it has vines. And what did he say? Except for the trees. Then the halacha is lavar meilane. He only means to retain the trees for himself. Ilani vidikli, lavar meilane. But now, what if it's gofni vidikli? What if the field has vines and palms and no trees at all? Then lavar me gofni. Then he means to keep the vines for himself. So multiple cases in which we figure out what he means to keep for himself. In the last case, obviously, it's a little bit difficult to understand. Why is it that the gufni, why is it that the vines are that which he's keeping for himself? And the Rashbam explains, because in reality, both the gufni and the dikli, neither is trees. But he clearly wanted to exclude one of them, and therefore, says the Rashbam, it's more likely that the vines are called trees than the palm trees. Amar Rav, continues the Gemara, teaches Rav, what happens if someone sells a field and he keeps something for himself? Kol sha'ilun loy bechavel, any tree that one goes up with a rope, arei shir. If he says, I'm excluding a tree, that any tree that he goes up with a rope, it's a tall tree, that is the tree that is excluded. Kol shekein oilun loy bechavel. But any tree, kol she'ein oilun loy bechavel, any tree that is not large enough, you need a rope to go up for it, lo avishir, is not considered kept out of the sale. We move over to Ayin Amid Aleph, and says the Gemara, but this din is not agreed upon by all, and rather teaches the Gemara that the Dayane Gaila Amri, the Dayane Gaila, they argue, and they say that it's not dependent upon whether you have to go up with a rope or not, but rather, Kol Sha'ol Kaif Shai Lavishir. If the yoke presses down, if when an ox with a plow passes by the tree, it bends the tree back. That is not held back of the sale. Because it's a stronger tree. Have a shear. Says the Gemara, guess what? V'loi pligi. Really, it's not a machlekes habedikli, habelilani, different types of trees. When we talk about a tikli, which is a tree that you go up in a rope, that's the first opinion. When we go up in a tree, when we talk about ilane, then it has to do with that which is the tree that would be bent by the animal plowing near it. Says the Gemara, new Shaila. Bai minei Rav Acha Barhuna me Rav Sheshes. What happens if someone says chutz? He sells a field, but he wants to say chutz mecharib ploni, a certain carob tree he's holding out of the field, or chutz misadim ploni, or he says except for a certain sycamore tree, Mahu. I say charavut loikani. Do we say that it's that karav, that carob tree that's not sold? Hashar charuvim is yes kani. Or or perhaps charuvim nami loikani, or maybe you meant to hold back all the carob trees. So Amar lei. So Rav Sheshes responds. 1 second, I apologize. What just happened over here? Amar le, Rav Sheshes responds, Loi kana. Says Rav Sheshes, none of the carob trees are acquired by the buyer and they're all held back by the seller. But Esvei asks Rav Acha, Chutz mecharav ploni, chutz misadem ploni, Loi kana. He said, I'm taking out of the sale a charav or a sadem ploni. The Brisa says, Loi kana. My love, what does loikana mean? So why are you, Rav Sheshes, teaching me that none of the charuvim, there is a kinyan on them? Says the Gemara, Marlei. Responds Rav Sheshes, Loi. Afilu charuvim, when the Brisa says loikana, means all of them. Nami loikana. And Teda, bring you a raya, that's what it means. Ilu Amarle, you know what the raya is? The seller said, Sadai machur lecha, my field is sold to you, chutz me sada plainis, hahi udalaikani, hachrina kani. That one, do we say, if he says, I'm selling a field, except for a certain field, do we say that the second field is not sold, but all the other fields he is sold? Of course not. Elo loikani, none of the fields are sold. Hachanami loikani. So brings a raya from a svara that he found in the case of selling a regular sada. Ikad Yamri continues the Gemara with another lush. Similar shayla, now it just has to be in half. What if he says, I don't want to sell you half of it? What's the halacha in that case? Shar charuvim vadi loikani, the other charuvim certainly is not kaina. Hamash shayr by sacharav kani. Do we say that which he left over in that carob tree, the other half? I said I'm not selling you half, so the other half, implying I am selling to you. I tell afilu masha shayr by sacharav nami loikani. Amar Le and Rav Sheshes responded loikani. So Esav has a similar shayla. Chutz b'chatzi karav ploni, says the Brisa. Chutz b'chatzi sada ploni shar gruvin loikani. My love shar gruvin loikani, but hamar shayr b'zacharav kana. Amar Le Rav Sheshes responds loi. Fil ma shayr b'zacharav nami loikana. Teda, bring your raya. Why? The Amar Le sada mechur lechal chutz b'chatzi sada ploni. Who the loikana? Yidach kani. Gonna tell me the other ones are kaina? Of course, everyone's wondering, why is it more mitzvah in the case of the sada? It's seemingly the exact same din, but that was his raya. Gemara continues on the last narrow line with a new shayla. Rav Amram Rav Chisda. Hamavkir is chaveroi b'shtar. V'amar lo yachzarti l'cha ma'u. Asked Rav Amram to Rav Chisda a new shayla. Someone is a mafkir. Excuse me, I don't know if I said a mafkir. Someone is a mafkir. Someone gives us a pekadain. Someone gives as a security an item next to his friend, and he bishtar. He records the fact that his friend has his item in a shtar. V'amar loy, and then he comes back to him and says, "Hey, give me back my watch that you have as a pekadain." The guy says, "What do you mean? I already gave it to you. Ma'u, what's the din? Mi amrina, do we say miudi bayamar? Nensu mehemin hashidam hem that locha is. This guy is a shemer china, and therefore, since he could have said it was an aynis, he would have been believed. Migu, therefore, he also has an amanos, like credibility to say, I returned it. Oidelma, or maybe, or we can say, 1 second, I have a star. If you returned it, I would not still have the star. So classical shaila, weighing the credibility that one has by holding the star versus amigu. So Amar Lei. So Rav Amram responds, Mehemin, the Shomer is believed. Says Gemara, wait, but why is that shuv? You can just taina, why do I have a star? Amar Lei, Rav Amram responds, excuse me, he responds to Rav Chisda responds to Rav Amram. According to your reasoning, what do you mean? Even if he says there was an Eines, why doesn't he still have the Taina Sharcha Be'adim Adbai? Of course not. Why not? Because he agrees he have a star. He says there's an Eines. So too the Sin Manos applies in this case. So Amar Le, Rav Amram doesn't give up, and he continues as we turn over to Ayinam and Beis. And the Rav Amram asks, the Avi is Kasha Misvara. So if some Kermali Nansu Lav Shvua Bai. Hachanami Mai. Well, excuse me. Lav Shvua Bai. Over here, says Rav Amram, 1 second. You're right. There's a credibility with Nansu. And you're telling me that the whole Nemanis over here comes from Nansu. But wait, in that case, you have to make a Shvua. Says Rav Chisda, I'm asking you. Hachinami my memon, when I said you're believed, Neman b'shvua. You're believed with a shvua. So says the Gemara of Chisda holds there is an amanus, but only with a shvua. Asks the Gemara Lema Plukta Dani Tanai. Is Rav Chisda arguing with the following Tanaim? The Tanya Shtar Kisa Yotzi Al Yisayimim. If we have a star of money that someone brings out and says Yisayimim owe him, the Dayanim in the Golus in the Goyla outside of Eretz said they swear and they collect. Kulai. They only collect half of it. So explains the Gemara, the Kuli Alm everyone holds. Islahun the Nardai. They all hold the din of our Nardai. What? Din of Nardai, Damri Nardai. Highest Kapal Gamova Balgabigad. And anytime we have a business, says Nardai. Brings us back to the Azav, is how Neshach days in Bamitzia. We view it as a Chatzi Melva, Chatzi Bikadain. And therefore, when they bring out this star saying that the Yisayim owe the money, half of it is Alva, and half is a Bikadain. So my love, so now says the Gemara, what's the Machlaikis? My love, Akamifligi. Demar Savar. The Deane de Goyla old, Amrele Shtar Chabi Adamai Bai. There's a Taina, therefore you can't collect. We don't say that. So as the Gemara comes out, the Rav Amram is taking sides in this world war of a machlekes between the Dayane Gaila and the Dayane Eretz Yisrael. Says the Gemara, Loi, really everyone agrees with Rav Chisda, and Rav Amram is not weighing in. Mar holds that if it's true that the father would have paid, he would have told the kids, and the fact the kids don't know is a raya. Father didn't play. Umar Savar, whereas then there hold the Imar Malach Hamavis Udan say, what do you mean the father should have told them? Right away, the Malach Hamavis took away the father's life. Therefore, the fact the kids don't know about it is not any relevance that they don't or they do have a chiyuv, but we're not way into our case of shtar chabiyadi my ba'i. So shalach Rav Huna bar Avin, one last Gemara following halacha. Mavkid is chaveru b'shtar ramelo achzartiv l'cha neman shtar kisa yotel yisayim nishva v'goyve kuloi. So Rav Huna bar Avin weighs in on both of our dinim. He says, number one, if there's still a shtar, that he still has an amonis to say, I returned it to you. Number two, you swear and collect for the Yisayim. Tarti, says the Gemara, seemingly these two things are stiros. If you collect for the Yisayimim, then you shouldn't have an Amonasech Zartif. Says the Gemara, no, shiny also, the case of Yisayim is different. It means the Barimema Amar. The he holds the father would have told them, in fact, they don't know, Zaraya. Father did not be, and that's why it's Nishba. The Goiva will pick it up from Rava, B'siyata Dishmai.